Hello my friends, welcome to our weekly out of sample video. Today we're going to cover the performance of our two strategies running on Alpaca paper trading, as well as compare the performance of the market with performance of our strategies, and also cover some of the improvements in the StratCraft system. As you can see, we started this week with 100,000 and right now it's showing a huge win, but this is a fake win because one of the stock that we held had the reverse split 1 to 20, and Alpaca currently doesn't account for that, so it shows a massive P&L. I hope they will fix it in the next few days. However, this doesn't affect our strategies because the liquidation value is only used here for display and not for actual trading. As you know, S&P is down 1.6% on the week and it's down 3% on the month and on 3 month. When we look at our strategies for the month, ADX is up almost 7% and ADR and RSI are also up. On 3 month, our strategies are doing even better. ADX is up 20%. It is up basically on every time frame here. And 1 year is a pretty bullish period right now, and their ADX is not up as much. So my conclusion based on the data we have so far is that ADX is a great strategy for trying times, but it's only an okay strategy for great times, which I think is a good mix. It's much easier to handle bad weather using ADX than something like ADR, which can go down 10% in a week. The market is pretty fearful right now, but we're not in the single digit. It seems like we can go lower. When I look at comparison for engine backtest and live backtest to make sure that our backtests are actually accurate, we are getting pretty good results for ADR. Now, the slippage for ADR turned out higher than I was modeling for. I was modeling for 0.3% slippage, and turned out when we do market order buys on low volume stocks, the slippage is more like 2%. So I have updated it to 2% and future backtests would be more accurate. However, we are pretty accurate in terms of number of trades, and if we look further down, we can see, for example, on Thursday, the trades between engine and live have fully matched, including the sizing. On previous days, some of our orders were just not filled. Here, since we now have 8% limit on buys on ADR, even though it's supposed to be buying on market open, to protect ourselves from weird scenarios where, for example, we have the price wrong and we say buy 100 stocks. If every stock costs 500 instead of 1, then we suddenly get this huge position. And so just to protect ourselves from bad data, I have introduced a limit on market buys. And so we don't really have real market buys anymore. We always do limit buys. But anyway, even with our limit buys, you can see that some of the stocks, they move up so much that even those limits 8% above the Friday close didn't get filled. I think the next week we are going to get much more accurate reading here. And actually on Wednesday and Thursday, these numbers were almost exactly equal. It's just on Friday things have changed a lot. On the right we have live backtest and on the left we have engine backtest. So they are pretty close. And you can see we were up on Wednesday, but Thursday and Friday was down. And in terms of cash usage, we are also very close. Here you can see that in live our fills were worse compared to prior close, and in engine backtests we expected better fills, so next week this should match. Our best trades match up pretty well, but our worst trades don't match up that well. This is because I calculate stop loss based on the previous candle close. As a result, the actual stop loss might differ from 31% that we have in the parameters, because we fill at a price we do not yet know when we calculate the stop loss. Now for ADX, we have actually outperformed S&P 500 this week. We are only down 1.3%, while S&P is down 1.6%. In ADX, there is also a curious case of negative slippage. So when we put a limit for $1, we actually often get filled at 99 cents, which is good. However, there are problems with fills. You would notice that in the backtest we expected 170 trades, but we only got 101. so 69 trades were just not filled. This is because we're mostly operating on low volume stocks, and there, when you put a limit on $1 and the low is 99 cents, the chances are you're still not getting filled, because that low was only achieved on one exchange. So next week I have adjusted the parameters, and I believe we should be getting much closer fit between engine backtests and live backtests. And it was especially bad on Tuesday, because on Tuesday the market went up. Almost all of our discount limit buys were not filled. This system does a lot of backtesting and optimization before we start trading, even in paper accounts. And when all this backtesting and optimization is done, we have our best parameters, which are used whenever strategy is created on an account. However, when we change these settings, such as slippage rate or limit buy penetration, all this technically has to be redone. And in order not to iterate over thousands of different sets of parameters, in the database section we now have a button to save best snapshots in a separate table, so that when we clear the backtest cache entries, the current best parameters are still stored over here in a separate table and they are not removed. And they will be the starting point for the next optimization cycle. Also, in the settings we now have automatic update, which can optionally be enabled, and so every night at 3 AM the server, before fetching the candles, it would get the latest update from head on GitHub. I have also switched to cheaper Hetzner instances, which are just €5 per month, but I'm kinda regretting it because they are much slower on CPU, so maybe I'm going to be switching back to regular performance instances. We have also added a 20 GB swap for memory, so the system should no longer be crashing on small Hetzner instances. We now also have memory and CPU chart over here since server restart. Over here we have commits on GitHub that have not yet been pulled into the system, so if you're not using auto update, you know what you're getting when you click this trigger server update button. As always, market data was kindly provided by Tingo. This was not financial advice. Thanks for watching and see you next time.